seen the place, she's been talking. Have you been away while she's smoking? Smile, yeah.
So Mark, tell me, how did you guys start? How did you meet? And give me the history of your band.
Yeah, no problem. We basically started at the end of last year, believe it or not. And the idea was we found 3 other members to join me who didn't know each other. So nobody had any sides or anything like that. And everyone could just get on and be themselves. From that, we've actually produced some really nice music. Because like I say, everyone's being themselves, so it's really easy. And that was it, really. That's how it all started. I met Dan, I've known for a little while, believe it or not. He's the only one who's not really meant to be in the band, but we all love him so much, isn't it? Because the idea was you're not to know anyone. But Jon, the bass guitarist, I met him because I bought an amplifier off him and told him we were looking for a bass player, and he was a bass player, and that was it. Rob I met through Band Mix, a music site. He's our drummer, he's excellent. And there's Dan, and Dan does the keyboard playing, so that's it really. So all's good, a good band. The music's great. We got 45 videos on YouTube now. So putting another one up today, later on today.
Great.
So that's it really. So no, it's all good, all very good. So, but we're obviously in lockdown as well, so it's very difficult at the moment. If we weren't in lockdown, we'd all be here.
Right.
Which would have been great because it'd be lovely to see everybody. But we're the same as you guys. I see you're still in lockdown, are you?
Right, we are. Tell me, Catherine, can you hear this? Hear my friend talking, or should I translate? It's like we're doing business in Shanghai and nobody speaks English.
It's going to be a long interview if you're going to translate everything I say.
Hopefully somebody will. Hey, Pam. Tell me, Pam, can you hear the dulcet tones of my friend from England?
Hi there. Can you hear me? 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
I've got some new people viewing today. I'm speaking with Mark Rich, and we're talking about his band, and we played a cut earlier. Recently, I've just been asking him how the band started, and it seems like the typical kind of how we all manage to find musicians to work with. As anybody, oh, good, you can hear his, you can hear his voice while I'm speaking to him?
You can hear me, can you? You can hear me okay?
Say hello to Pam, Mark.
Hi, Pam, how you doing?
Okay. It looks like we're getting success here. I'm glad. You know, the show must go on.
Where's Pam from?
Pam's from Highlands here. She runs our local feral cat adoption program and takes care of all the kitties in our little seaside town. She's a great neighbor and a great community citizen. She's, it's funny, I have, like, in the back in my trunk, I have 2 big bags of dog food and some canned food for her. I've been meaning to drop it off for a week or 2 now. It's been sitting back there, and I went by the other day and I missed her, but now that the weekend's here, I'll get over. Pam says she loves your accent.
Oh, thank you very much. So I can't hear you, Pam. I'm really sorry.
Yes, Pam, every woman loves an English accent, as far as I know. I find it amusing. Absolutely.
Touring over there.
Yes, you'll have all the birds for sure.
No, I'm married, but
oh, you're married. Well, we won't get you into any trouble. I'm sure you have a lovely wife. She puts up with you as a musician.
No, she's very lovely. So yeah.
Well, good. So tell me a little bit more. What you have 40 tunes up, and there's a fairly wide variety. But I'm assuming. Tell me some of your musical influences, because I can hear a lot of ska influence.
Yes, there's loads. I love all music, but there's everything from like Mark Boland and T-Rex. I don't know if you remember them.
Oh yeah.
In the 70s, right up to Oasis. Things like the Fratellis. I don't know, because a lot of English bands you probably don't get over there.
Right.
But the main ones, it's mainly a bit of an Oasis feel. It's a bit of everything really, all sort of thrown into one. But I think the other thing is we're all trying to find our feet a bit. So we're doing all different sorts of music, which actually is all right. We've just done our first album, which is out now.
Right.
And that's got all different sorts of tracks. Well, nothing's the same, but you know it's us all the way through it. So,
and how do we get a copy of your record?
You can go to Amazon and get one. You can go on the website and we'll send you one, whatever you want to do, really.
Great.
So, not a problem at all. Very easy.
Well, I'm going to be posting some links to Mark's site after we get off, folks, and go by and check him out. Go to YouTube. It's, in my opinion, a great way to really
check us out on YouTube. That's where you want to be. So that's what we need, YouTube viewers.
Well, I'm going to talk to my girlfriend works for a company. They own a record company or two, and
Right.
I'm going to give them a call, and then I'll call you back and see if maybe it's something you'd be interested in doing. They do a lot of distribution here in the States and stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So we'll talk.
We're on Spotify and all the usual things. So
SoundCloud,
Spotify, all that sort of thing. So we're sort of everywhere.
That's a good thing. I think
Yeah.
you guys are a little ahead of the curve with this whole Corona thing. I know here in the States, it wasn't until a month ago I really given serious thought to recording with people in different locations around the world. I noticed you have the one cut on your CD that you guys all played at a distance and played it together.
That's right. Yeah.
And
It's not the greatest song, that one. It was just trying to do the video together, really. So we've got sort of a dummy live version of it as well, which is actually quite nice. It sounds better with the crowd in it than it does without.
Yeah, it's always funny to get, I've produced a lot of people's music and other bands and my own as well. And it's really, it's hard to get everybody on the same page. There's there's many models for producing a band, like the Dictator, the Conciliator, the Rabbi. If you're producing a band, it's all, you wear many hats. And, playing in a band, if you have a band that works and you have that good cohesion, there's nothing like it on earth.
That's right.
And I have to say, you guys have a real nice sound.
Thank you.
I've got YouTube going weird on me here. I want to bring up some of your other tunes. I'm sorry, say that again?
Everything's going weird today, isn't it?
It is, but that's the nature. This is a new endeavor for me. I've only been doing this. I've been doing this show for just over a month, and all I know now is I have a list of things I need to get to just make it a little better. And I have to sign up for a service where I can have people come in and interact with us live. The Facebook works sometimes. I'm really puzzled. We could link up with some guy in Afghanistan, and we can't get into bloody old England. It's amazing to me.
We were chatting yesterday, weren't we?
Right, and it worked. It went fine. Like right now, you and I are talking fine.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the deal is with this, the peculiarities of Facebook. So, what is your favorite song?
Well, the funny thing is, I kind of love the one I'm doing at the moment, and then I'll do another one, and I love that at the moment. So it goes on. So that Dance. I don't know if you've seen the video for that. It's done in black and white, and Dan, the keyboard player, he was looking after his two daughters that day, and he said he can't do the video because he's looking after his daughters.
Right.
I said, Dan, bring them in the video. So if you go to Shooting the Breeze Dance on YouTube, it's actually a really lively track. And what I was looking for, especially in America, is something like a line dancing team or a cheerleading team or something like that.
Right.
That would do a dance, and just send me a video, and I'll put it all together.
Well,
so they don't even have to be dancing to our song.
Yeah, that'd be great. That sounds excellent.
Cheerleaders especially, I've been looking at those recently on YouTube, and I didn't realise they were so famous over there.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, I've got some folks. It seems like they're interesting. They're interested to hear it. As far as the show you're on, I'm gonna definitely have you back on, and
well, it'd be nice to have the whole band back.
Right.
Have it all together. It'd be great. So
I'd like to. I'd like to have you back once I get some of these technical foibles corrected. But so tell me, how long have you been playing guitar?
Well, funny enough, I've been playing since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
But I always used to strum and just not really get much further than that. And then the year before last, I decided I'm going to spend a year learning to play it properly, which I did. And then after that year, the idea was then to set the band up, which is what we've done. And now I didn't realise how busy I was going to be.
Sure, of course.
The promotion and everything's massive, isn't it? So,
well, yeah, I always have a saying, and it's everybody wants to be in a band until they want to do band stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody out there in radio land or TV land, they all figure that we sit down, we just get up on stage and we knock something out. Yeah. And we do when we're live, but nobody really understands the level of depth that goes into getting 30, 40, sometimes, I have 100 songs in our song list that we typically would grab from, but keeping enough people together, there's a lot of different methods. You can be a dictator as a band leader, or you can be, I like Tom Petty's model of being a concerned uncle. If you're going to run the band, you act like a concerned uncle or brother, and you do your best to make sure your guys are taken care of. And, you know, I found most...
The whole band, we've all talked about America. We'd all love to come to America.
Oh, yeah.
That would be an absolute dream for us. But that's it, really. But like I say, you know, the Dance song, that was one of our early songs. And it's very lively, and it's a great one to listen. If you get a chance to play that, it's a good one to play. So,
right.
If you can hear me, have I lost you?
Oh, no, I have you. I'm just moving something out of the way.
Oh, okay, no problem.
That way I can see both you. I basically put you on my, hold on. We'll go back to Messenger.
There you go.
There you are.
Thank you.
Now I have the best of both worlds. This is what you call really hacking together an ad hoc broadcast. I have my phone strapped to my iPad. I have my Mac here, which, of course, I have an older Mac, so just let me know that I can't use the camera in my Macintosh to talk to you. Right. So I'm sitting here with two Apple products, and, you know, I love my products by them. I think...
I'm sitting here with the same products. Everything's Apple this end as well.
Yeah, you know, I love their technology. Right at the moment, I'm mildly annoyed because I bought a new TV and I can't get my Apple TV to work with it. But I'm going to sort that out because I like being able to just, like even doing this broadcast, if I could do it upstairs, we could just sit on the couch and watch you through the television, have a much bigger screen. And
because
one of our callers in just said that Pam again said she found a website of yesterday's songs, which is mostly 70s, and she loves it.
Lovely,
I find myself, I go back and listen to a lot of old music a lot more nowadays. You know, I'm not one of those seasoned citizens who says, oh, the kids' music, it's all fucking shit, you know. You know, I'm of the mind, all good music is good music. There's different types, and I don't like it all. I mean, there's some music that just, I can't call it casual listening, like death metal or grindcore or some of that stuff. But I know when I was a kid, I would have loved that shit. I mean, I grew up in New York, New Jersey area, and we thought Kiss was great in the 70s. But, you know, myself, it was all the bands from England that came over here that we really still dig, the real monster acts. I mean, you have the Stones.
Just thinking about it, if you go, Hold You Tonight, which is one of our songs on YouTube, the riff of that is T-Rex's Get It On.
Okay.
One of those. Hold on, I wonder if I can... I'll just grab a guitar, you probably won't.
All right.
Yeah, Hold You Tonight, so I don't know, can you hear this? It's probably going to sound terrible through a phone, but... Can you hear that?
I can.
Yeah, so it goes like this, And I've always been a while since I made snow, but the world's been filling my days. And I'm not always no excuse, but I really think I should tell you. Right, that's our version. And then T-Rex, is well, she's no woman of gold and she's not very old.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with homage to people we love. You know, music's all derivative, no matter what. In fact, I just read something interesting that you may not have heard and some of my guests haven't heard. Evidently, there's a law firm that they do litigation and copyright law for companies who buy music and things like that. And they have a new novel legal theory that will be no doubt litigated through the courts, because I'm sure this isn't going to go over like a fart in the night. I think what's going to happen is they've put together a computer program like the type that plays chess with us. And this computer program, they set out about 4 years ago to have every melody possible composed. I'm not certain of the number, but they've recently come out and are looking for clients who are doing litigation, and they're defending against litigation by proving that every melody has been heard. So, for example, if we steal a T-Rex song, you know, in the chorus and the melody and all, you know, basically, you know, you're out of luck now. Musicians, are, once again, they're figuring out a way to screw us out of whatever royalties we make by saying it's really a derivative work, or Bach or Beethoven or Haydn, and really it's crap, because what's happened, and again, I like some of the modern music that kids do. My theory about 10 years ago was when all these small synthesizers and the kids started getting into synths again, all the EMI synthesizer stuff and Telstar by the Tornadoes, they're all into this, you know, programmed music. And it reminds me of like 20, 30 years ago when drum machines first came out. And I remember being in a music store and I was buying, it was called the Emu Drumulator. And it came out a long time ago. And I bought it and I loved it. And I had a Simmons kit at the time, but this was all pre-MIDI. There was no MIDI when I bought that thing. And so I was assuming when I was buying the kit, some guy came up to me and smart-assed me and he said, "Hey, you're going to not have any more gigs, Neil." And I told him basically to piss off because I said, "Look, man, you think you're going to program this drum better than I am? You can't even think at the speed and the density that goes on into crafting a well-done drum part. To program, say, a Steve Gadd bit, like if he were to say program one of his famous bits like 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. Well, you know, now you could just take loops of that and record it, but to program it, it's not as easy. And I say this as a drummer because I've seen guitar players and they go, "Look at program my drums." And it's not to slag on guitar players. It's just that sometimes I'm like, the drums suck, you know, that's the best you could do. It's like a little more than a click track. There's no swing. And, you know, even the things like they've incorporated into swing and all that. I don't know.
Our drummer is fabulous. Our drummer's fabulous. His name's Rob. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I hear you good.
His name's Rob, and he's brilliant, our drummer. And then saying that, John, our bass player, is brilliant. Dan on the keyboards, he's brilliant. And then there's me.
Well, that's cool.
I sound nice in English.
Well, you know, I really do like your music. I think it's very good. And, you know, it like we all have our people we grew up listening to. And so I can hear that in the songs you write. And I'm sure people can hear that in things I write too, because there's a lot of songs. There's a million great bands. There's, you know, I think music is the one universal language that most of us can abide by. People you meet from other places. If you can make music with them, it's a lot easier to hang out and you see each other's humanity more. I mean, I've met musicians all over the world all my life, and usually some of the smartest people I've ever met have been musicians or stand-up comics for similar reasons. Of course, we know all the drummers are all, you know, super superior to everyone else, at least in their own mind. You know,
our keyboard player, he's a stand-up comic, Dan.
Oh, great.
If you see the video Whiskey Glass, and just give it a minute, and then he starts, and oh my God, he has us all in hysterics. So it's all on the video.
Oh, great! I'll have to give that one a listen for sure.
Whiskey Glass. So if you put in "Shooting the Breeze" Whiskey Glass,
I
the
love
other
it.
thing to subscribe
to mainly just being artists and musicians who I interview to get the feel of you know, why they do what they do. Pam's telling me I'm frozen. Oh my God.
You're okay, my end.
I'm not on your end, but I'm watching them. I have you on one screen, which is there.
Oh, okay, hi.
And then I've got me. I'm looking at you now on the phone as opposed to on screen. I hope we don't stay frozen. Oh, we're okay now, mate. We're back on. I see you great.
You great,
So tell me, how is the club situation prior to the coronavirus? Did you have a lot of work?
Yeah, everyone was fine. Everything was good, you know. And then all of a sudden, that was it. The virus came along, and that was the end of it. So nobody could do anything. So, which is a shame, really. But there you go. It doesn't. You know, I know a lot of people aren't enjoying it, but it's probably wrong to say this, but it's giving me so much time to write. And do stuff, and giving them, you know, believe it or not, the band, you know, Rob, Dan, and John, and myself, we've got a lot closer since being in this lockdown in a funny sort of way.
Right.
Because we communicate every day on WhatsApp and things like that. Which, you know, before we just rehearsed once a week or twice a week, depending on if we were doing a tour or gig or something. Then we do a lot more.
Right.
But that was it, really. And now it's just all right. It's good. So everyone can't wait to get together. But we're still not allowed to get together. So there's nothing we can do. What's it like over there? Is it still bad with you guys?
Well, you know, here in New Jersey, we're pretty much still on lockdown. They're bringing it out recently. I think the next week they're going to allow dining outside. But as far as gigs, there's just nothing. Some very well-known venues have closed down, and I'm really of the mind this is going to change music and our presentation of it forever. And the sooner most musicians realize that everything's going to be through a video form nowadays. And I see for the foreseeable future, plus I think that just the corona is an awful thing, and it's killed thousands of millions of people, whatever. And obviously we have to deal with that. I myself, I'm lucky enough that, you know, I'm not starving and I'm able to sit and eat and write music, and I've been doing the same thing. I know a lot of creative folks are out of money and out of work, and it's really tough for them. You know, New York.
Yesterday we had 377 deaths yesterday.
Wow.
I don't know if that's how that compares with you guys. We were up to like nearly 1,000 a day.
Right.
Sort of 700-800 and things like that. But now we dropped down to around 100 and something. But yesterday was 377. I don't know what today's is yet, because it's over here. I know, and your time's a bit different, but we're sort of coming up to 4:30 over here in the afternoon.
Right.
I suppose you're about lunchtime over there, are you?
Yeah. Right up. Coming up.
What did
right.
you have for lunch today? What did you have?
Oh, you know, I'm going to go out. There's a lot of little shops in town that are giving out food. I think I'm going to go down and grab a lobster roll today.
Oh, how fantastic.
Yeah.
Well done.
Our town, Highlands, New Jersey, is a great little place. I'm going to do my little bit of ambassadoring for the great little town I live in. We have a lot of musicians, a lot of artists. We have a lot of working people, a lot of fishermen. It's a fishing village. Now, you know, now it's become, and one of our, Pam is speaking and saying, us geezers are going to remember the old days with live concerts in person.
That's right,
You know, I think no matter what you do, if you're good and you're authentic and you have a good product, people are going to listen to it. None of us are probably going to get rich and be millionaires. I mean, that whole model of doing business is gone. I think U2 and Bono, they stole it all. It's all theirs now. You write a song, you got to give Bono a tithe.
Yeah, a lot of bands are now heading to India because there's massive audiences there.
Right.
So U2, talking of U2, they've done India. Some big names going over to India. Apparently it's a new place to go to.
Right.
So we went to India last year, in April last year, just for 3.5 weeks, but that was on holiday.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, musically, it's meant to be a good place to go. So it's a massive amount of people. So, which is, if you're relying on sort of clicks on your YouTube or wherever, you know, to get all that audience, it's going to help tremendously. And so that's what people are realizing, and that's why they're going over to India.
You know, I think India is an untapped market for so many things, and you know, all the Indians who migrate here, they're just amazingly hardworking folks, and you know, they have it figured out how to succeed in America for sure. You know, it's like a lot of the people I meet from the former Soviet Union, when it comes to talking about free enterprise or making a living in the States, they all get it totally. I mean, and they all say, you know, we don't want to turn to the left because we've lived under it, you know, living under communism. I know I went to East Berlin and, you know, before it and saw it, and it was just horrible compared to now. I mean, nowadays, Berlin's just such a cosmopolitan city.
Yeah, it's hard this end as well because, you know, an interview for a band should be the band. Mm-hmm. And the band would love to be here. John, Rob, Dan, you know, would love to be here all together.
Right.
But sadly we can't. And it's kind of a bit of a different feel. You almost feel like you've done something wrong. Does that make any sense?
Well,
because you're not all together, you think, oh, crikey, what's happened here? But it's just circumstances, isn't it?
Well, it is, you know, and everything you do is a learning exercise. That's really why I started this, was just I have a lot of musician friends around the world, and I like to talk to them and hear what they're going through. And what I really want to try and do is I'm going to be changing the format. It's still constantly under wraps. I've changed a bunch of things. I first started this and thought I would do 3 video podcasts a week. And I realized that's really biting off more than anybody can chew without staff. And just trying to get guests and get the promo done and all. It's all the devil's in detail. And it's like that in music. It really is in any field, you know. I've been playing since I was 7 years old, so it's rooted deep in my DNA. And I really wouldn't know what else to do with myself. You know, my normal job, I've worked as a salesman for technology products for most of the past 30, 40 years. And I love the tech stuff, but I have to say, I really like making music a lot more, as we all do. And I thought I'd do this just to kind of learn how to do the podcast thing.
It's a good thing to do. And I think going back to the music music, it takes you away from real life.
Sure.
If you've got things on your mind and things like that, you pick up your guitar and it's all gone, you know. And
Absolutely.
And you can get your emotions out. And if you've got something to say, you can get it out.
Sure.
And that's important, rather than bottle it up. You know, so if you say it, you know. And
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter how good or bad you are at singing or playing or anything. It's like, I look at it like an artist will paint a picture, okay? Look at Van Gogh. His pictures weren't the greatest, were they, to be fair? But he's doing quite well. He's done quite well in it. But if you sit and paint a really bad picture, it doesn't matter. It's your art. And it's the same as music. If you sit there and write a really bad song, it doesn't matter. It's your art, you know? And that's how it should be. Well,
you know, I always, too, I believe, you know, if you don't start, and you got to start somewhere. And I happened to start very young. But, you know, that said,
your neighbors loved
you
you.
know what? I'll tell you, it's a funny thing about that. My neighbor had my babysitter, actually, her brother had a drum set. And this was back in like 67, 66. Right. And I used to have to go over there and hang around at the house with her. And I had a paper route in those days, and I sold seeds door to door. So I was out trying to get gigs at an early age. It's in my blood. Yeah. But I went over and I'm drawing a mind meld. Sorry, I just got distracted looking off camera.
That's right.
I'm sorry. What were we talking about? That bungling.
Your neighbor's babysitter with a drum kit.
Oh yeah. So I went down and I'd watch him, and he'd have the Stones on, and one of the first records, not the first, but one of the first records I bought was "Let It Bleed" by the Stones.
Okay.
And I didn't have a drum kit yet, but I listened to it all the time at home. I went down to the neighborhood little small tiny record store and bought it, and was so proud. It was my own cash, you know, and it worked out good because it was just like I watched him play, and all the chicks were hanging around, and they're all like, "Ooh, he's so good." And when I was about 7, I told him, "I really like your Rolling Stones song, but you've got the count wrong." And he looked at me like, "You little shit, get out of here." And one of our fans said her first album was BTO, some good Canadian rock and roll. We loved our Canadian friends. But it was pretty cool. And I told him, "Look, I think I can." He goes, "What do you mean it's off?" And I said, "Well, let me show you. It's the cowbell. The rhythm's kind of hard. It's not. It's deceptive. It's deceptively hard, but deceptively. People think it's easy, but if you really listen to the count, where it's like dun 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 dun, and that 2/2, people always miss it when they listen to it. They play it on 1. It's like anybody who give them a tambourine or a conga or any damn thing that they don't play, and they're gonna always play on 2 to 3 when they should be on 1 and 2, or they'll be on 3 and 5. You know But I sat down and I showed him that, and I could tell as soon as I got done playing, he's like, "That was a little shithead, get him out of here," you know. But I asked him then, "Can I take some lessons from you?" and became his friend. And you know, I took some lessons, and I don't know what I was paying, like $2 or $3, maybe $1. Seemed to be a lot of money at the time. But after a month of taking his drum lessons, I just realized he was a crappy drummer. And I started taking some lessons at the little music store, which I eventually ended up playing and working there. It was a little home family place. It's like, it looked so big, but it's about as big as my studio, which if you look around behind me, is not very big. 3-story row house in Haledon, New Jersey. And they lived upstairs, and then they had lessons in the basement, and they had 2 or 3 little corners. And you know, I went by there and started taking lessons. Then I started asking them if I could get a break on my lessons. I'll vacuum up and polish guitars and shit like that. I eventually pestered him into it, and it was a good thing because his family all played. They had a band that did weddings and events, and they played a lot of weird shit like, you know, How High the Moon and hold on. Yeah, I was just moving around my microphone. But you know, it was cool because once I ingratiated myself upon them, I got like my first gigs playing at church functions, and we did some weddings and things like that. But you know, I was getting paid, and my friends were like, you know, I had my paper out too. But once I realized, wow, I can get paid for this, and this is so much fun. And I grew up, with this family band, so they were like family.
Yeah.
And I played with them, a bit back then when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And it just led from that same path through life. Worked at other music stores, in exchange for lessons. When I was 17, I discovered jazz and realized that, wow, this is really hard and complex. I love it. I'm going to tear into it. And so for like 5 years in my high school years, I was a complete jazz snob. All the rock and roll I could play, all the John Bonham, the Who. And I'm like, oh no, man, I have a jazz band. And then I moved to Florida, which is not exactly a jazz mecca in the 70s. And I had a jazz band together. We played on my 18th birthday at the Tampa Theater, which had a jazz show. And so we got to host it. And I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. I was like, I got my jazz band, upright bass. We got all these great players. And then I realized I got a call to go do some. Bye-bye, Pam. Have a great one. Hello, Barbara.
Bye, Pam.
Glad to see you came in just as Pam was stepping out. Barbara, I'm talking to a friend of mine from England, and we're talking music, and we just run off the train rails here.
Hi, Barbara. Hi.
Mark Rich is a musician from Hampshire. I'm just making sure I've got the town right, not the state.
Yeah, Winchester.
And he's got an excellent band, very ska-oriented, just great bunch of folks. So after we get finished with the show, which will be coming to an end shortly, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to post some of his links. And I hope you guys check out Mark's band. We are going to have him back because we're still at the early stage of this broadcast, and things are changing daily. The technology, we're still trying to fix some of the issues with that. But we're glad you're here, and I'm glad Mark took the time. He stopped in and checked out one of my videos, and we've become friends over the internet through the wonders of technology. And who knows, I might have to.
I will be back.
He'll be back, and I hope to pinch one of his songs. I'm going to ask him for one.
But just if you're going to put any links up, do our YouTube links, because we work hard with YouTube.
You have a great YouTube site, by the way, one of the better ones.
It's a good channel, it's very good. So,
do you do that yourself? Is that your work?
Yeah, do everything.
I got to commend you.
We make our own videos, we do everything, literally everything.
Well, that's, the do-it-yourself movement has always existed in music before anything. And we almost got to get the show done.
No, but if you do it yourself, you're not relying on somebody. And I might wake up at 3 a.m. and think I want to do this or do that or change this or change that.
Right.
I can't phone someone who's working for me.
Right.
So that's why I do it myself. Because you're in full control of what's going on. And what you produce is yours.
Yes.
It's no one else's ideas, It's all
right.
your ideas, So
the essence of creativity is to always be doing something. I've found it's helpful to try and write a song a day, even if it's crap. If you can just take a half hour and get out the idea for one good song, maybe a verse and a chorus of the title of the song. There's so many ways to write that we all, I could sit down with a drum track and write a song because I already know what I want to sing. I have the words written, so I'll just figure out the beat. But I have another friend of mine I had on here who was giving me the business, saying he's never, he's a good musician, done several albums. I respect him greatly. He's a good friend of mine for a long time. But well, first off, he told me my show sucked, which is always the best thing about a good friend. They clear the decks, But I always tell people, I've done a lot of things, and some of them sucked. But I've done some things that are very good. And I don't really care, because to get good, you have to suck. And it's just, if you are wired right, it's a consistent progression of steps forward.
Absolutely.
And, you have things fuck up. It's like during a show, all the things build patience and character. How you handle things that go shit on stage. I was doing a gig once, and we were playing to a crowd of extremely drunk people, because the bar sold these rum drinks that were like $5 a piece, and each one had like 5 or 6 types of liquor in it. So if you drank 2 of them, you were just fucking hammered. So I'm playing, and the whole bar is hammered, and I'm pretty hammered too, to tell you the truth. I'm playing, and the drumstick broke, and it flew up and hit me right here in the neck. If I got close, you could still see the scar. So the point of it's stuck in my neck, and I'm trying to sing and like brush it off. Like I wiped at it once, and I'm like, fuck, it's stuck, man. Oh God, am I bleeding? I'm afraid to pull it out and think I'm in big arterial carotid spray across the room. And so I'm sitting there singing. I finished the song, and I fucking snatched it out, grabbed the sweat rag and put it on it. Well, I ascertained that the blood wasn't too bad, but it hurt, you know. It was a real sharp, and it was stuck in good. Like a couple inches to the left or right, it would have cut my throat, you know. Your carotid artery, if it had hit, it would have been a bloodbath, you know.
Yeah, that would be the end of you as well.
Yeah, I've seen that happen to someone in a bar once. It's another story for another time, and it was brutal. All I can tell you is my keyboardist and I, a good friend, Dave Bond in Florida. Dave Bond, you're not watching, you fucker. Anyhow, him and I ripped tablecloths and started stuffing them into this guy's neck. It was horrifying, to say the least. We were scared shitless. It was the longest 2 minutes. The owner of the place, he was a Hungarian who'd been there in the revolution. So when he hears all this chaos and sees the blood spurting, he's running around with a gun. I've killed people. I'm like, somebody please take Grandpa in the back room. He's having a bad day. It's not getting any better. I thought for sure the guy was going to die. They flew him in a helicopter to the hospital, and I found out a month or two later the guy survived. So I'm assuming that went up in my list in God's eyes. I got one more additional life to screw around with. You know, now I'm there at the point where I've used up all my things, so I eat healthily. I don't drink anymore. But, you know, that said, I had a hell of a lot of fun when I did.
That's a great story. Going back to your writing a song a day, that is very difficult to do.
Yes.
Very difficult because it's very time consuming. See, at the moment, I'm doing one a day. I'm doing an acoustic number every day. I've got one going on. I'm finishing one this afternoon, which I was doing all day today.
Mm-hmm.
So that would go on. So that would be 6 in 5 days. I put on YouTube, but they're just acoustic ones.
Right.
And to be honest, they're songs I've just been writing and kicking about with. And they're all getting sort of lost. And it's kind of a way just to keep a record of them, just put them on YouTube.
Right.
So that's what they are. So, I don't know, some people might like them, some people might not.
Sure. Well, you know, it's always that way. It's always, you know, you lick your hand, you go, which way's the wind blowing? We'll give it a shot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I mean, and you know, I think you're great. I've enjoyed having you on, and I promise you the next time we do this, it'll be much more technically savvy.
It'll be great with the band, honestly.
Absolutely. And, you know, I'm basically putting this together on a shoestring. See you later, Pam. She's left the building again.
Yeah,
but I'm going to wrap us up. We're a little early, but we started a tad early, and with all the technical shit, I'm running out of things to talk about. But I love your band, and I'm gonna give you some PR, and I can't wait to have you back. I really I look forward to hearing your stuff, the new stuff too. I've signed up for your mailing list, so I won't miss anything.
Well done.
And
yeah, it's good. And enjoy your lobster sandwich or whatever you're going to have. Yeah.
Right. Well, hey, man, I'm going to sign off now, and it's been great having you. And everybody out there, I'm going to just play a little bit of music here from my friend. We'll get it cranked up. Oh, I think that's not you. Nope, that's Nora Jones. So I don't know what the hell's going on. Now all hell's breaking loose. I love Nora Jones. She's got an amazing studio in New York.
Put Shooting the Breeze Dance on. Shooting the Breeze Dance on YouTube. That's a nice one to listen to. It's lively.
Okay, well, cool. I'm going to check it out, and I hope some of my guests check out you and buy some stuff. And we'll stay in touch anyway, just to see how things are going. And it's great having you as a friend, and I'm glad. Thank you so much for coming on with us.
Thank you, Neil.
All right, mate. Well, I'll see you next time, and we're going to go. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Cheers.
All right, everybody. Anybody left? I see that you've all left the building, which is fine. I know the sound was probably awful. However, we got through it, and if you can, check out his band.
Have you got a copy of that?
Say again?
Do you have a copy of that interview? You normally put a copy on your website, on your page. You put one on our page last time, didn't you?
I think so, yes.
Have you got a copy of that one?
Have
you got a copy of that interview? Do you normally
oh, yes. I do have I have a copy of the interview. I have to, flick through Facebook, but
yeah, can you stick it on our page?
Sure, I'll do that. Yeah.
That'd be brilliant. Then we can use it on our website and things like that.
Of course. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right, mate. Well, listen, I will talk to you soon. Everybody's about heading out of here. So have a great day, and I'll see you soon. All right, pal. Bye-bye, mate. All right.